She showed up on my porch with a laminated badge, two guys in polo shirts, and a damn locksmith. Said she was seizing my house over unpaid HOA fees. I don't even have an HOA. 10 minutes later, one of them was in handcuffs, and I was handing the FBI a USB drive that would blow the whole thing sky high. When my dad passed, I didn't expect to end up back in that old craftsman house on Delano Street. He'd bought it in the 80s after leaving the fire department, a modest red brick home with a warped porch swing and a driveway that cracked like it had veins. The place wasn't fancy, but it had a certain stubborn charm, and more importantly, it felt like him. Truth is, I'd been living out in Seattle for years by then, running my own little repair business, mostly vintage audio gear, tube amps, turntables, all that stuff with soul. I did most of my work online, shipping restored pieces to collectors and old-school audiophiles who still believe in things like warmth and tone and wood paneling. I liked the quiet, didn't like people telling me what to do. That's probably why I worked alone, and why moving back felt, okay, Dad left me the house free and clear, just like he always said he would. No bank owns this place, he told me once when I was a teenager sneaking beer on the roof, and no one ever will. That's the point. He was a stubborn old bastard, but in a good way. He believed in paying things off and keeping receipts for everything. I moved in slow, spent a week just walking through the place, brushing dust off picture frames and finding random old tools in drawers. He had this filing cabinet in his back office, locked, of course, with the kind of key you can't get at a hardware store anymore. Inside were rows of folders, each labeled in neat block letters. Taxes, title, insurance, utilities. The man kept better records than most hospitals. That's when it really sank in. This house wasn't just some piece of real estate. It was his, every corner of it. From the back porch where he smoked his evening cigar to the garage he'd turned into a half-functional workshop with pegboards full of tools he never used. He'd fought like hell to hold on to this place after Mom left, and now it was mine. I figured I'd stay a while, fix things up, maybe make it my base for a bit. Clients didn't care where I was as long as I could ship on time. Plus, my little sister Amy lived just 2 towns over and started dropping by with groceries and unsolicited life advice. She's the smart one. Works paralegal for a firm that mostly deals with real estate and probate. Lucky for me, right? At first, everything felt good. Quiet in a way I didn't know I'd missed. The neighbors were fine, mostly older folks who'd lived there forever. They waved. I waved. That was enough. Across the street was Mrs. Marge Henley, sharp as a tack at 70-something and always in the garden with that big straw hat that made her look like a friendly scarecrow. She used to bring my dad banana bread and once told me, without blinking, "If you ever turn this house into an Airbnb, I'll set your trash cans on fire." I liked her immediately. No one mentioned anything about a homeowners association. Not once. That was the part that really got me later. Not a whisper, not a note in the mailbox, not a polite knock on the door with a pamphlet and a fake smile. Just normal neighborhood stuff. Until one day, it wasn't. I was in the garage, elbow deep in a busted Marantz receiver, when I heard the knock. Not the friendly, hey neighbor kind. This one was assertive, short, sharp, like the person on the other side expected me to come running. I wiped my hands on a rag, walked to the front door, and there she was. Mid-50s maybe, short platinum bob that practically glared in the sun, lips pursed like she'd bitten into something sour. She wore this fitted navy blazer with shoulder pads that made her look like she was cosplaying a 1980s city councilwoman. Around her neck hung one of those cheap plastic lanyards with a badge inside, the kind you get made at Staples. It read, Brenda Cormack, HOA President in Comic Sans. I swear to God. "Hi there," she said, smiling with way too much teeth. "You must be Orion. So good to finally meet you. Welcome to the Hill Valley community." She said it like it was a gated golf resort and not a row of semi-updated post-war homes with mismatched mailboxes and cracked sidewalks. "Thanks," I said, already suspicious. "I've been here a while, though." She let out a little laugh like I'd told a cute joke. "Oh, of course. Yes. I meant officially. There's just a little housekeeping we need to go over." That's when she pulled out a clipboard. Real old school, metal clamp, stack of papers, a pen attached with a pink shoelace. She started flipping through it like she was looking for a menu. "We're just making sure all our homeowners are aligned with the current standards. You know, keeping things beautiful around here. Property values, safety, harmony." She trailed off like she expected me to nod along. I didn't. She blinked twice and kept going. "So, you inherited this property, correct? After your father passed?" There was something about the way she said that, like she wasn't offering condolences, just confirming a data point. "Yeah, that's right." "Well, then you're automatically part of the HOA. She said it like it was great news, like I'd just won a damn raffle. We have a simple monthly dues structure, $425, and I've got the welcome packet right here. She tried handing me this folder. It was bulky and laminated, filled with pastel-colored pages, graphs, bylaws, and what looked like a hand-drawn diagram of someone's backyard labeled acceptable outdoor furniture options. I didn't touch it. "Hold on," I said. "I didn't agree to join anything. I've never signed anything like that." Brenda's smile held, but her eyes sharpened just a bit. "Oh, I understand the confusion," she said, turning pages again. "But your father was a member, so the responsibility transfers. It's in the charter, page 14. "The hell it does," I muttered. Then, louder, "My dad hated HOAs. He told me he'd never let anyone tell him what color to paint his house." She gave a polite little laugh, like I was adorable. "Sometimes people say things, but legally speaking," she tapped the papers, "this is all pretty cut and dry." I crossed my arms. "I'd like to see proof of that." "Oh, of course," she said, her voice still sugary but just starting to curdle. "I'll make a note to get you a copy of the charter. In the meantime, just know you're already 2 months behind on dues, plus late fees. You should expect an invoice soon." That was the moment I knew I was dealing with a professional manipulator, not just a nosy neighbor, not just someone with too much time on their hands. No, this was a woman playing office with real stakes, trying to run her little kingdom with manufactured rules. She didn't threaten me, not exactly. But as she walked back down my driveway, folder in hand, she paused by my mailbox, scribbled something in her notepad, and muttered just loud enough for me to hear, "We'll get this sorted, one way or another." It didn't sound like a neighborly promise. It sounded like a warning. At first, I figured Brenda would lose interest. People like that, power-drunk HOA types, they're used to people folding quick. Say no a couple times with confidence, and they usually find someone easier to bully. But not Brenda. About a week after that porch conversation, I came home from the grocery store and noticed a bright orange tag taped to my front door. At first I thought it was a city notice, maybe utilities or something. Nope. It was from Hill Valley HOA Compliance Enforcement Division, printed on cheap paper like it had been run off a basement inkjet. It claimed my grass was overgrown. My grass? I'd mowed it 2 days earlier. Hell, I had the clippings still in the bin out back. The tag said I had 48 hours to correct the violation or face a $125 fine, and at the bottom, in bold, future noncompliance may result in formal action per HOA standards. I laughed, out loud. Then I walked back inside, poured myself a glass of iced tea, and tossed the notice straight in the trash. But I kept it. Something about it felt off, not just petty. Calculated. Next came the mailbox. I was sitting on the porch one morning working on a busted Sansui tuner when I saw Brenda walking down the sidewalk with this younger guy, tall, sunglasses, clipboard in hand. They both stopped in front of my place, whispered something, and then the guy took a photo of my mailbox. Click, just like that. I stood up. "Can I help you with something?" Brenda smiled that Stepford smile again. "Just conducting routine compliance checks, Mr. Wells." "For what? My mailbox?" "It's non-standard," she said. "It's not regulation height, and it doesn't meet visual uniformity guidelines. It's been here since the Reagan administration." Well, the guidelines have evolved. "I'm not part of your damn HOA," I reminded her, again, for what felt like the 50th time. She just turned to her clipboard guy, said, "Document it," and walked on like she was the Queen of England inspecting the troops. That week, I got a printed citation in the mail. Not real mail, some fake official envelope dropped directly into my mailbox with no stamp, no postmark. Brenda's version of a summons, I guess. This one said I owed $300 in cumulative fines and administrative handling fees. Then things got weird. I came out one morning to find my trash cans, which I always kept behind the gate, lined up in front of my driveway. Lids off, bags half pulled out, like someone was trying to make it look like raccoons had a frat party. Nothing was stolen, just scattered. And when I checked the footage from the old ring cam my dad had installed years ago, it was conveniently blacked out for about 4 hours. I started feeling watched, paranoid. One time I caught Brenda parked across the street, sitting in her car, engine running, just staring at my house. No clipboard, no notes, just her, eyes on the porch, sipping from a to-go coffee cup like it was a damn stakeout. She began escalating toward my neighbors too, especially the elderly ones. Mrs. Marge across the street started getting violations for yard debris and unapproved wind chimes. A single pink flamingo in someone's garden got tagged as unsightly ornamentation. Then came the letters. A manila envelope in my mailbox, again unstamped. Inside, a letter on Hill Valley HOA letterhead claiming my persistent noncompliance was negatively impacting neighborhood property values and that further action would be required. It said I owed $1,475 total and included some photocopied pages that looked like mock legal documents, citations, notices, a copy of a page that looked like a charter. And stapled to the back was a photo of me, standing in my driveway, taken from the street. That was the first time my stomach dropped. Not out of fear, not yet. Just this cold, creeping sense of, oh, this lady's unhinged. I called my sister Amy that night, told her everything. She didn't even let me finish before saying, she's bluffing, but keep every single piece of paper and lock your damn gates. I started a folder, printed screenshots, took my own photos, scanned everything Brenda dropped in my mailbox, not because I was scared, not yet, but because something told me this wasn't just some busybody on a power trip. This was someone who was testing how far she could push, and she was just getting started. The next week, my power went out. Not the whole block, just my house. Coincidence, right? That's what I thought too, until I saw the note taped to the side of my fuse box, barely flapping in the wind. Unapproved exterior wiring modifications, power disconnected pending review. Hill Valley HOA compliance officer. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud, until I realized I had Zoom clients scheduled that day. A shipping deadline, a freezer full of food, and no damn power. When I called the electric company, they had no record of any disconnect. They sent a guy out that afternoon. He took one look and said, "This was pulled manually. Someone flipped it at the street box. You've been having problems with your neighbors or something." Oh, buddy, if only he knew. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because of fear, because of rage. I laid there staring at the ceiling fan, half wondering if that too would soon be deemed non-compliant, and realized something I hadn't fully admitted to myself until then. This wasn't about rules or fees or even the HOA. Brenda was trying to break me. She wanted me to bend, to fold, to come crawling to her little table with a checkbook and a fake smile, begging to be let back into the community like some peasant before a queen. And I think deep down, she thought I would. She had no idea who she was dealing with. The next morning, after the fuse box stunt, I did what any mildly unhinged but still law-abiding adult would do. I brewed the strongest pot of coffee my machine could handle, sat down at the kitchen table with my growing pile of Brenda-themed paperwork, and made a list of everyone I was about to annoy. First up was the city clerk's office. I wanted records, anything on file that showed Hill Valley HOA had legal standing. The woman on the other end was friendly enough, but after I gave her the name and my address, there was a long pause. She clicked away on her keyboard for a minute, then said, "I'm not showing an active HOA for that subdivision." "Is there a former one?" I asked. "Not that I see. Nothing's registered under Hill Valley." That should have been comforting, right? Only it wasn't, because Brenda was out here slapping citations on mailboxes like she was Judge Judy with a stapler, and if there was no official record of her HOA even existing, that meant she was either bluffing really hard or operating outside the law entirely. I called the county next, same story, no registered association, no corporate filings, no special zoning designations. My neighborhood was legally just that, a neighborhood, with grass, sidewalks, mailboxes, and apparently a delusional tyrant running around with a clipboard. Amy got involved after that. I didn't even have to ask. She showed up at my house with her laptop and a highlighter-streaked printout of the state property code like she was prepping for a bar exam. "You're not in an HOA," she said, flipping her screen around. "Not by law, not by plat, not by annexation." "Then what the hell is she doing?" Amy shrugged. "Testing you. See how much crap she can pile on your porch before you finally say, 'Uncle.'" I tried the police, not 911, obviously, but the local precinct. Spoke with an officer who sounded half interested until I mentioned someone tampering with my utilities. That got his attention for a minute. He came out later that day, gave a sympathetic nod while I showed him the note on the fuse box and said, "If you catch her doing it again, let us know. But without footage or witnesses, we can't really act." I pointed to my camera. "She disabled it." He just sighed. "Then that's something you'll have to bring up in civil court." Civil court, the land of endless forms and procedural footnotes. Still, I wasn't giving up. Amy helped me draft a cease and desist letter, nothing too aggressive, just enough legal weight to say, "Cut the crap." We mailed it certified to Brenda's listed address, which turned out to be, surprise, a P.O. box at a UPS store 3 towns over. The letter came back undeliverable, not because the box didn't exist, but because Brenda refused the delivery. Okay, cool, normal behavior. I started asking around the neighborhood after that, not in a dramatic, let's start a revolution way, Just casual chats on the sidewalk, trash can in one hand, coffee in the other. You'd be amazed how quickly people open up when they find out they're not the only ones being harassed. Mrs. Henley, Marge, told me Brenda fined her $200 for having a non-compliant garden border. It was a line of decorative rocks. She'd had them there for 20 years. Then came John, 2 houses down, who got a violation for inoperable vehicle because his truck had a tarp over it during the winter. He'd been paying fees for months just to avoid the headache. That's when I realized Brenda wasn't just after me. She was running a racket, picking off the quiet ones, the tired ones, the ones who didn't know the law or didn't have someone like Amy in their corner. So I tried the Department of Consumer Protection, filed a formal complaint. Then I submitted an inquiry to the State Attorney General's office, and because I had a few too many cups of coffee that day, I also emailed 3 local news outlets. I figured if nothing else, someone might be interested in a story about a rogue HOA president forging a mini dictatorship in suburbia. I was doing everything right, everything by the book, but all I got back were automated replies. Thank you for contacting us. Due to high volume, response times may be delayed. Meanwhile, Brenda was still dropping off citations like clockwork. One morning, I found a red flyer under my windshield wiper that read, in bold, "Final warning, non-payment of dues will result in escalated enforcement measures." Enforcement measures. What exactly was she planning to enforce? With what? Her pen collection and a poorly laminated badge. Amy kept telling me to hold the line. "You're building a record," she said. "Even if they don't respond now, they will. The law takes time." That was the part that made it hard. Because I wanted to believe the law would fix this, that if you just checked the right boxes and submitted the right forms, the wheels of justice would turn. But I was out here doing everything right, while Brenda was out here unplugging my house like it was a Christmas display. There's something that happens when you realize the system doesn't work the way they taught you it would. It doesn't come all at once. It's slow, like water rising under a closed door. You stand there, ankle deep, thinking someone will notice. No one does, and that's when the doubt creeps in. Maybe it's easier to just pay her off. Maybe you should just give in and make it stop. Maybe the house isn't worth this much fight. That thought scared me more than anything Brenda ever did, because the moment you start thinking like that, she's already won. The twist didn't come with fireworks. It didn't come with a big aha moment or some secret agent sliding me a manila folder across a diner table. It came in the form of an old shoebox. I was digging through my dad's closet looking for a socket wrench extension he used to keep in a blue canvas bag. I'd checked the garage twice already, figured maybe it ended up inside during one of his "I'll put it away later" moods. The closet was mostly untouched since I moved in. Still had his flannels, his boots with the soles worn flat, and a few dusty hats he never threw out. Up on the shelf, behind a folded blanket, was the box. It was taped shut, kind of sloppy, like someone closed it in a hurry and never got around to sealing it properly. On the top, in black marker, my dad had scribbled, "Do not toss, legal docs, property." I sat down right there on the floor and opened it. Inside were envelopes, old bank statements, and a stack of folders with yellowing corners. Most of it was exactly what you'd expect from a guy who kept every oil change receipt since 1992. But near the bottom was something that didn't belong. A letter, on letterhead, from something called the Hill Valley Development Initiative, dated about a decade ago. It was addressed to my dad, polite, almost overly formal, and thanked him for considering alignment with the proposed HOA framework. Attached was a copy of the preliminary charter and a space at the bottom for a signature. But here's the thing, it wasn't signed. Not only that, there was a post-it stuck to it, in my dad's handwriting. "Absolutely not. Keep this for records. R." It felt like the air changed in that closet, like the floor tilted just a bit under me. He knew, he saw it coming, and he shut it down, cold. I went through the rest of the box like a man possessed. Found more letters, different dates, same general pitch, all variations of "we'd love to formalize the community, create shared standards, enforce harmony, blah blah." Every single one had my dad's notes in the margins. Some were just no. Others had more colorful language. One simply said, "These people think they own me." I was grinning like a lunatic. And then I found the kicker. A county file, actual stamped paperwork, rejecting a zoning petition from a group trying to form a formal HOA. The petition had been filed under Hill Valley Community Restoration Committee. Sounded harmless, but the person who'd submitted the paperwork? Brenda Cormack. Same name, same signature. 10 years ago. She'd tried this once before, failed, got shut down by the county, and now she was back, trying a different angle. Same scam, new paint job. I grabbed my laptop, logged into the Secretary of State's site, and searched the business entity database. Typed in Hill Valley HOA. Nothing. Then I tried Hill Valley Community Association. Bingo. Registered less than a year ago. Listed as a nonprofit residential management organization. Mailing address? A P.O. box 2 towns over, same one that refused my certified letter. And under agent of record, Brenda Cormack. But that wasn't even the twist. That was just confirmation. The twist came 20 minutes later when I decided to check the property records for my own house. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, I remembered Brenda saying something at one of our early conversations. Something that didn't register at the time. Something like, well, your father was listed as a founding member? It didn't make sense. If he never signed anything, how could he be listed as a founding member? The answer? She'd forged it. There was a filed charter attached to the registration, supposedly listing the original members who ratified the HOA's existence. I opened the PDF, scanned down the list, and there it was. Russell Wells, my dad's name, typed clean, with a signature in script font pasted next to it. Not scanned, not handwritten, a pasted image of a signature. It looked legit, to someone who'd never seen the real thing. But I had. His signature always had a little loop in the R and this sharp flick at the end of the S. It looked like a bird tail when he wrote it fast. This one? Flat, symmetrical, like it came from a digital template. I pulled out his old insurance forms from the box, compared them side by side. They weren't even close. And then it hit me. This wasn't just her trying to bully people. This was fraud. Document fraud, identity fraud, hell, maybe even wire fraud, depending on how far she pushed it. I texted Amy, told her to get over here, now. She showed up 20 minutes later, looked over the paperwork, then looked at me. This is enough, she said. She forged a legal document using your father's name and submitted it to the state. That's a felony. Her hands were shaking as she clicked through the documents. And if she's using this to collect money, that's criminal enterprise, racketeering. She could be looking at serious time. We sat there in the kitchen, my dad's files spread out across the table like a puzzle, and the two of us just stared at each other. Because in that moment, it wasn't just about my house anymore. It was about every neighbor she'd find, every widow she'd threatened, every fake document she'd left on someone's porch. This wasn't just petty harassment. Brenda was running a scam, and we had proof. I don't know if you've ever held on to something and just known it was going to flip the whole table. But that's what it felt like, sitting there with those files. My dad's old papers, Brenda's fake charter, the forged signature, all of it. I wasn't even angry at that point. I was locked in. Amy leaned over the table, staring at her laptop like she was decoding a spy message. She was already texting someone at her firm, a guy named Chris, one of the partners, while I went to dig up every HOA notice Brenda had dropped on me since this circus started. Her handwriting, the fake citations, the enforcement threats, all of it. I laid them out in order like evidence markers in a crime show. This is good, Amy said, scrolling through her phone. This is more than good, but we need to be smart about how we drop this. If we go in loud, she'll shred everything before the authorities even know where to knock. That's when it clicked. We weren't just exposing Brenda. We were going to build the case brick by brick, and then we were going to drop it on her head. So that night, over microwave enchiladas and a bottle of whatever wine Amy grabbed on her way over, we started the plan. Step 1. Get the paper trail airtight. Amy pulled case law examples, prior rulings where fake HOAs had been prosecuted, the penalties for forged signatures on state documents, the fraud implications for collecting dues without legal authority. We weren't lawyers, but we didn't need to be Perry Mason. We just needed to hand the real ones everything on a silver platter. I contacted a buddy of mine from my Seattle days, Marcus, who now worked as an independent IT investigator. One of those guys who knows how to extract metadata from PDFs and find the digital fingerprints people don't even realize they're leaving. I sent him the scanned copy of Brenda's HOA charter and the signature sheet. He got back to me a day later, grinning through a video call. It's a cut-and-paste signature, he said, zooming in on the document. Even worse, the image file they used? It's named Russ Wells, Tash Sig. JPEG, no scan timestamp, no original PDF trail. That signature was never signed. It was placed. I had to mute the mic so I could let out a half-hysterical laugh. We weren't just proving Brenda was fake. We were proving she was sloppy. Amy handled most of the communication with the local real attorneys, especially Chris. He agreed to discreetly pass along the forged charter to the county district attorney's office. Not as a formal complaint, not yet, but as a potential concern regarding misuse of state registration systems. At the same time, I started knocking on doors, politely, quietly. Just the people I knew had been hit by Brenda's phantom HOA. Marge, of course. John, with the truck tarp. The young couple down the block who got fined for leaving their Halloween decorations up too long. I didn't go full expose, I just asked questions. Hey, you ever sign anything with Brenda's HOA? Did she ever show you any official city paperwork? Have you been paying dues? You'd be surprised how fast people open up when they realize they're not alone. Half of them looked relieved just to talk about it. The other half were mad, not about the money, but about being made to feel powerless. And then there was Dave. Dave lived in the corner house at the end of the block, retired Air Force, the kind of guy who keeps his lawn at regulation golf course height and flies the flag year-round. Quiet, private. We'd nodded at each other a dozen times, but never really talked. I only knocked on his door because Marge told me Brenda had targeted him too. He opened the door wearing a hoodie and sweatpants, which I now realize was his version of casual DEFCON 1. She threatened to put a lien on my house, he told me flat. Said I owed back dues from the previous owner. I asked to see the ledger. She said it was confidential, so I told her to get off my damn porch. I chuckled. She didn't take that well, I'm guessing. Dave nodded. Then, and I'll never forget this, he stepped back inside, came out a minute later with a yellow folder and handed it to me. Security cam footage, he said. From the day she left a notice on my door. Shows her opening my mailbox, putting in the paper, and taking something out. I blinked. Wait, what? She stole my water bill. Thought I wouldn't notice. That folder? That was gold. Because tampering with mail isn't just petty, it's a federal crime. Brenda had officially crossed the line from nuisance to prosecutable. I sent the footage to Amy and Marcus. Amy forwarded it to her contact. Marcus checked the timestamp against the day Brenda cited me for non-payment. Same afternoon. Now we had forged documents and a federal violation. From there, everything moved in slow motion, but with a kind of inevitability. Chris reached out to a reporter he trusted from a regional paper, quietly, just to test the waters. We've got something brewing, he told her. You're going to want to be ready. Meanwhile, Amy kept cataloging every piece of evidence. She turned my garage into a makeshift war room. Post-it notes, printouts, color-coded folders, timelines. I joked that she'd missed her calling at the FBI. She didn't laugh. She just said, "We're not done yet." The final piece came from Marcus. He cracked into a cached version of the HOA's old web portal, something Brenda must have set up and forgotten to take down. On the members-only page, which wasn't actually password protected, he found a downloadable spreadsheet. It listed every house on our block. Owner names, payment records, compliance ratings, notes like elderly compliant, push for auto withdrawal, or widowed potential lien target. It made me sick. She wasn't just playing boss. She was building a hit list. We printed the whole thing. And that's when we realized the real victory wasn't going to come from proving Brenda wrong. It was going to come from showing everyone else that she was a fraud, publicly, loudly. So we set the stage. The next neighborhood meeting, the one Brenda had planned for her annual spring compliance review, was coming up, and this time I was going to attend. Not to argue, not to complain, to end her little empire, right there, in front of everyone. I walked into that meeting like a man walking into a poker game with aces in both sleeves. Brenda had reserved the rec center hall down by the tennis courts, the same stuffy beige room she always used for these things, with folding chairs that squeaked when you shifted your weight and those awful fluorescent lights that made everyone look slightly sick. She stood up front, as usual, clipboard in hand, tiny American flag pin on her lapel like she thought it made her look more official. She even had one of those portable speakers set up so her voice would boom over the heads of the 30 or so people sitting in their sad plastic chairs like obedient students waiting for detention to begin. I stood in the back for a while, just watching. Her show had gotten more polished. She'd added a PowerPoint this time. Seriously. She clicked through slides labeled Q2 fee adjustments, compliance trends, and, I'm not kidding, vision for a unified community future. Every word was fake, every number was fiction, but she sold it with that oily smile and her syrupy politician tone. And the worst part? Some people nodded. Some people bought it. I saw a few neighbors, decent folks, flipping through the pamphlets she'd handed out, highlighting important dates. Like this was normal, but I wasn't there to be quiet. When she reached the slide titled Delinquent Properties, Enforcement Actions Pending, and my address popped up first, I cleared my throat. Loud. Heads turned. Brenda looked up, spotted me in the back, and for a split second, just a blink, I saw her smile tighten, like she bit into something bitter but was trying not to let anyone see her gag. "Well," she said into the mic, "looks like Mr. Wells has finally decided to join us. Welcome. I hope you're ready to settle your balance and avoid further—" I'm good, thanks, I said, calm, clear. Actually, I thought I'd come tonight to help clear a few things up. Thought the neighbors deserved to hear the truth. Brenda's eyes narrowed, but she kept that fake sweetness in her voice. This isn't a forum for personal disputes, Orion. We have a full agenda. Oh, I know, I cut in, and I'm on it. You put me right there on that big screen with the red letters next to my name, so I figured you'd want me to speak. A low ripple ran through the room. People were looking around, whispering. Brenda straightened her back. If you have a concern, you can address it through the proper channels. I did, I said. You ignored them. You refused a certified letter, and then you pulled my power, sent fake citations, and forged my dad's signature to create a charter for an HOA that doesn't legally exist. The room went dead silent. Brenda froze. And then she laughed. Not a real laugh, the brittle, forced kind. Mr. Wells, these are very serious accusations. Yeah, I said. They are. That's why I brought copies. I held up a folder, yellow tabs sticking out. The whole thing looked like it came straight out of a courtroom drama, and for the first time, Brenda's confidence cracked. Not fully, not yet, but enough for people to start noticing. I turned to the crowd, my neighbors, my dad's neighbors. I didn't want to be here tonight, I told them. I'd rather be fixing radios or repainting the damn porch. But I've been watching this woman lie to you. I've seen her bully people, threaten liens, fabricate violations, and charge money she has no legal right to collect. And she's been doing it under the name of an HOA that she made up, registered with a P.O. box, using fake signatures from people like my father, who never signed a damn thing in his life. Someone, I think it was Mrs. Chen, gasped, "She's not a president, she's not a board, she's not anything, she's a con artist in a navy blazer." Brenda stepped forward like she was going to grab the mic, but I raised my phone. "Before you say anything," I said, "you should know I've already submitted this entire packet to the county district attorney. And the footage of you pulling mail from Dave's mailbox? Yeah, that went to the feds." The crowd turned. People started murmuring. One guy actually stood up and walked toward the projector, leaned in, and stared at the slide with my name on it. Then he looked at her. "You told me I'd lose my house," he said quietly. "You said if I didn't pay the maintenance fees, you'd send collectors." Brenda tried to smile again, but it wouldn't stick. "All part of community management, Robert. We have standards to uphold." "No, Brenda," I said. "You have invoices printed on your home computer." She opened her mouth again. I could see the panic building behind her eyes, but I wasn't done. "Here's the thing. We've got a digital footprint, documented forgery, metadata proving your charter's a fabrication, screenshots of your members-only spreadsheet, the one that says who's vulnerable and who to push harder. Hell, I've even got your original petition from 10 years ago, the one the county denied, the one you decided to resurrect with a new name and the same scam." She didn't say anything. Just stood there, blinking, shoulders pulling in like she was shrinking under the fluorescent lights. And then, the most beautiful moment of the entire night, someone clapped. It started slow, one pair of hands, then another, and another, until the room was filled with a quiet, furious kind of applause, the kind that said we've been waiting for this. Brenda took a step back, reaching for her bag like she might bolt, but Amy, bless her, was already near the exit, casually flipping through her phone like she wasn't blocking the door on purpose. Brenda glanced at her, then at me. "You think you're some kind of hero?" she said, voice tight, jaw clenched. "You don't know who I'm connected to." I smiled. For real this time. "Yeah," I said. "We're about to find out." And with that, I turned off the projector, unplugged her little speaker, and walked out with the folder still in hand. The neighbors followed. One by one. No one stayed. She was left standing alone in that echoey little room, holding a clipboard full of lies in a crown she'd made out of duct tape and ego. And that was just the beginning. I thought walking out of that meeting was going to be the high point. Like that was it. Curtain drop, everybody goes home, credits roll. But that was just the tremor before the quake. Because word spread, not in some viral TikTok way. No hashtags. No dramatic video montage with music swelling in the background. It spread the old-fashioned way, porch to porch, driveway to driveway, one trash can lid at a time. People started talking. I'd go out to get the mail and find Marge standing there with fresh banana bread and a fire in her eyes. She charged me $75 last year for having unauthorized potted plants, Orion. They were petunias. John showed up the next day with a thick folder of his own. She said I owed her for power washing the sidewalks. I did that myself, with my own machine. And it just kept coming. Printed emails, violation notices, payment receipts, all signed, all branded with her fake little logo. The same logo I later found out she made on Canva and watermark stamped like it was the US Treasury seal. Amy set up a secure shared drive and started logging everything. I swear, by the end of the week, we had more documentation on Brenda's fake HOA than most real HOAs keep over a decade. The county DA's office called first. Their investigator, a guy named Ramos, wanted to speak with me directly. He sounded calm, serious, asked for a sit-down, so I brought everything. The file box, my dad's documents, the forged charter, the spreadsheet Marcus uncovered, the footage from Dave's mailbox cam, everything. Ramos didn't say much during the meeting, just nodded a lot, took notes, asked me to explain how I got certain documents. He kept circling back to one question. Did she ever collect money? Oh yeah, I said. Thousands. From retirees. From single moms. She even tried to threaten a lien on a veteran's house. That got a reaction. Not a big one, but enough. He wrote something down, stood up, and said, "Thank you for your time, Mr. Wells. We'll be in touch soon." 2 days later, it hit the news. Amy texted me the link first. Local station. Headline read, "Fake HOA investigation. Underway in Hill Valley subdivision, allegations of fraud, forgery, and mail tampering." Below it, there was a still image of Brenda from that meeting. She looked like she was blinking mid-sentence, caught somewhere between smug and shocked. They quoted residents, anonymized for now, but I recognized their stories, and they listed the charges under consideration: fraud, identity theft, misrepresentation of authority, unlawful collection of fees, falsified documents, and misuse of private mailboxes. That night, Channel 9 parked a van down the street. Their reporter tried to knock on Brenda's door. She didn't answer. Someone, I still don't know who, leaked the spreadsheet. The one with the neighbor, ratings, the little notes about who was compliant, who to pressure. That did more damage than anything else. Seeing your name next to a line like widowed, likely to comply under pressure, hits different. It lit a fire under people, the kind that doesn't go out. The homeowners started organizing. Not to form a real HOA, God no, but to dismantle every trace of the fake one. They called a community forum, this time in the school auditorium. Open mic, public comment, no agenda. I showed up expecting a handful of folks, maybe the usual crowd. There were over 100 people there. One by one, they came forward, told their stories, read Brenda's threats out loud, passed around copies of citations. One guy brought his bank statement showing auto-pay withdrawals labeled HVCA maintenance fee, which she'd set up without his full consent after he filled out a contact preferences form she slipped in with a neighborhood newsletter. It was like watching a whole town finally wake up from a shared fever dream. Then came the final blow. The state attorney general's office launched their own inquiry based on a complaint filed by one of Amy's legal contacts citing potential RICO violations. Racketeering. Because if you operate a fake organization, collect money, use intimidation, and fake legal processes, that's not just shady, that's organized fraud. They subpoenaed her records, froze her accounts, seized the P.O. box. I found out Brenda had been funneling the money through a community wellness nonprofit she'd set up 3 years prior, totally unrelated to our neighborhood, and paying herself a consulting fee. It was laundering with glitter on top. The day they served her papers, she was spotted standing on her front lawn, shouting at the process server, wearing a silk robe and what looked like rhinestone slippers. I wasn't there, but Marge got a photo. We had it blown up and taped to the community notice board for a solid week. Then the interviews started. First the local paper, then the city blog, then a regional podcast, one of those long-form ones with eerie music and dramatic narration. Amy and I recorded an episode where we broke down the whole thing, start to finish. They titled it, "The Phantom HOA Queen of Hill Valley." Even people outside the state started messaging. Turns out Brenda wasn't the only one running this kind of scam, but she was one of the boldest. Most folks tried to hide behind paperwork and legal fog. Brenda printed her fantasy and walked around like she was queen of the cul-de-sac. But her kingdom was gone, and everyone knew it. Publicly. Loudly. The mailbox flyers stopped. The citations stopped. The panic stopped. What replaced it was something I hadn't expected. Community. People started talking again. Really talking. Hanging out. Helping each other with yard work. John hosted a block cookout. Amy brought her famous peach cobbler. Even Dave, gruff, retired, no bullshit Dave, brought out his cornhole boards and taught half the street how to play. Brenda? She disappeared. Packed up, quietly, slipped out under the cover of shame and legal heat. Her house went dark, blinds drawn. Word was she left the state. No one missed her. And just like that, for the first time in what felt like forever, the neighborhood belonged to us again. A couple months after it all blew over, I was sitting on the porch with a glass of iced tea, just listening to the hum of the cicadas and the occasional bark of a dog down the street. My garage door was cracked open. I'd been working on a reel-to-reel deck from the 70s a neighbor gave me after hearing I was good with old tech. Funny how things change. I don't really know when it hit me. Maybe it was seeing kids riding their bikes up and down the street again, or the way people started waving without that forced neighborly tension. But something in the air was lighter, like we'd finally exhaled after holding our breath for way too long. Marge walked by with her little yappy dog, the one Brenda once tried to fine her for not picking up after, even though the thing barely left her front yard. She waved and I waved back. Then she called out, "Still fixing broken things?" I smirked and raised my glass. That's the job. She laughed and kept walking. I think about my dad a lot more now. Not in a heavy way, not the grief that used to sit in my chest like a cinder block, but with this weird sense of calm, peace even. He was right, you know. He always said, don't let anyone tell you how to live on your own land. And for a while, I thought maybe I'd failed him, letting someone like Brenda sink her claws into our block, even for a minute. But now I think he'd be proud, not just of the fight, but of the fact that I stuck with it, that I didn't let her turn our neighborhood into a fear factory, that I didn't cave when the smarter move seemed like backing down. Hell, maybe he'd be a little surprised I pulled it off. I know I was. Amy still stops by, less for legal strategy, more for dinner and catching up. She and I never really labeled things, just kind of slid into a rhythm. Sometimes she'll bring her laptop and work on the porch while I tinker in the garage. It's simple, easy, the kind of quiet life I didn't know I'd been missing until everything went to hell and came back better. And yeah, sometimes I still expect a knock on the door, some new drama, a fresh hell, Brenda in a new disguise. But it hasn't come, not yet. What has come is community. Real, messy, backyard barbecue, can I borrow your ladder community. The kind you can't fake with laminated badges or PowerPoint slides. It just happens, slowly, authentically. That's the thing Brenda never understood. You can bully people, scare them, manipulate them with fake rules and empty threats, but real neighborhoods, real people, don't need a queen. They just need a reason to trust each other again. Turns out sometimes that reason is as simple as one guy refusing to back down. So yeah, that's the story. All of it. And if you're ever on the edge of something like that, someone knocking on your door trying to push you around with a rulebook they wrote themselves, remember this. Don't hand over your front porch without a fight. Because sometimes the smallest house on the street holds the biggest backbone. And sometimes all it takes is standing your ground once to help everybody else remember they've got ground worth standing on too.